This live stream brought to you by the Excelsior Citizen and these generous sponsors. The Simmons Sales Team, your hometown realtors. Find out how you can advertise with Excelsior Springs' #1 community resource. Visit ExcelsiorCitizen.com today.
Come before thee today asking for thy help, asking for wisdom for the council members as they conduct their business, and I pray that they'll do it well and do it with the best interest of the community which they serve in mind. We do pray that you bless this community and our town. Watch over us, Lord, we pray. Deliver us in these interesting times that we live in. Keep us hedged about, protect us. We do pray for a revival in this town, if it would be thy will, that thy kingdom might increase. We do ask this now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Shannon.
Councilman Kowalski?
Yes.
Councilman Spahn?
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear?
Yes.
Mayor Powell?
Yes. Okay. Are there any visitors this evening that would like to address the council that are not on the agenda? Okay. Minutes of the regular city council meeting of June 6th, 2022.
I move that we approve the meeting minutes of the June 6, 2022 meeting.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilwoman Morgan?
Yes.
Councilman Spahn?
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear?
Yes.
Mayor Powell?
Yes. Okay, consideration of the agenda.
Move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Roll call,
Oh,
Shannon?
give that to someone.
Councilman Spahn?
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear?
Yes.
Mayor Powell?
Yes. Okay, the first item on our agenda is a resolution for consideration of a public safety sales tax board appointment. And this is to replace Mark, because when he went on the council, he had to vacate his position on that. So I know you'll be missed, Mark. But Bill Westerheide has agreed to take your spot.
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 1356, consideration of PSST board appointment.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilman Kowalski?
Yes.
Councilman Spahn?
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear?
Yes.
Mayor Powell?
Yes. Agenda item number 2 is a resolution for consideration of an agreement with Credit Bureau System for EMS billing collections.
We would like to table that and bring more information back at the next meeting.
All right. Do we need to do anything? Do we need to make a motion to table it? I think we do.
Why don't we do that?
I think we do.
I will make a motion that we table resolution number 1357 for the consideration of an agreement with Credit Bureau Systems EMS.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilwoman Morgan?
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski?
Yes.
Councilman Spahn?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear?
Yes.
Mayor Powell?
Yes. Okay, agenda item number 3 is a resolution consideration of ARPA fund application for stormwater improvements. Shannon?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. The Missouri Department of Natural Resources is administering federal financial assistance from the U.S. Department of the Treasury pursuant to the American Rescue Plan Act, otherwise known as ARPA. We will be applying for approximately $5 million worth of stormwater improvements based on the flood study that we are currently working with Vireo. Part of the requirements is to have a resolution from the governing body that names the authorized person to apply for the grant, just like we did on the sanitary and the water. It's going to be our city manager, Molly, who will be able to submit and sign all the necessary documents and receive payments on behalf of the applicant, which is the city. And the resolution is attached. Any questions?
No questions? Then we have a resolution to consider ARPA funds for an application of stormwater improvements.
Make a motion, we approve resolution number 1358, consideration of ARPA fund application for stormwater improvements.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes. Okay, agenda item number 4 is a resolution, a consideration of a BPJ study for lime disposal with Lamprey Nearson.
All right, what this is, Missouri Department of Natural Resources has notified us that in order to renew our waste or our water treatment operating permit, we must have a BPJ or Best Professional Judgment Study conducted that reviews the best practices for disposal of our waste line from the treatment process. It will also evaluate alternatives and make recommendations for sludge disposal in the future. The alternatives to the study will consist of, number 1, continuing the current practice of discharging to the Missouri River. Number 2, modifying the discharge to the Missouri River. Number 3, land application of sludge from the lagoons. Number 4, land application of mechanically dewatered sludge. And number 5, landfill of the mechanically dewatered sludge. And this project is broken down into 2 phases. Phase 1 includes an environmental assessment of the current outfall, which consists of site characterization and an environmental assessment study, which has a price of $49,000 to complete. If the results of Phase 1 show that a relocation of the outfall is necessary, then as a best management practice, then the Phase 2 scope and fee will be reviewed. This will consist of a river discharge investigation by a hydraulic survey and the development of a core mixing model. The lump sum for Phase 2 is $58,000. If the final recommendations include a relocation of the outfall, any permit documentation, preparation services will be an additional cost. Our agreement with Lamprey Nearson is attached along with Exhibit A, the scope of services, which describes the study and the compensation schedule. Resolution is attached for your consideration and approval of this agreement with an amount not to exceed $107,600 for both Phase 1 and Phase 2 if needed. Currently, like I said, the slime is a byproduct discharge at the treatment process at the plant, and we pump that slurry from the water plant all the way down to the Missouri River, and right now it's just a pipe at the edge of the river. And we've caught it on an aerial before, like in 2014 or 16, and you can see it has about a 300-foot tail of just kind of line that discharges out in the river, and then it just gets diluted at the Missouri River. So this is stemming from the EPA. The last probably 2 or 3 permits, they came back and asked us about it, and the engineers have been able to just tell them, well, this is the best thing we can come up with right now. So they crack down on all types of pollution record or stuff like that. So this time they're wanting an actual study done on it. So that's where this comes from. Any questions?
So Chad, if it's required that it be land-based, what's the protocol there? Does it just get distributed to farmers throughout the area?
What we had before, we own quite a bit of acreage around there. We crop farm it right now around the water plant. We had several big basins that the water would pump, the line would go down to pump out to it, and then it would de-water and it would basically just dry up. It turns into a very thick peanut butter. And then over the fall, in the falls of the years, probably every so often, we have a big mixer, or we'd rent a mixer or buy a mixer at the time. We've sold the thing since. And we have a long reach hoe, dip it out, put it in there. It's like a manure spreader if you've ever been around a farm. And you drive around and sling it all over the fields and then disc it in. And then you have to meet all their requirements of the amount you can put on a field before it. So when we had 3 large basins when we abated them and put in the pump and pumped it to the river, and that was probably in the 90s because the plant was that before. And then instead of doing it, that's a big expense and makes a huge mess of all that area. The neighboring property owners don't like it because then you get that stuff everywhere, and then when it rains, if you don't get it incorporated, it washes down the streams and it's all over their farms, and it's dusty because it dries out to just like powder once it dries out completely. So when you're disking, it all goes airborne. It's just a mess to deal with, regardless of what you do to it. So it used to be that way that we land applied it, and then probably in the middle of '90s somewhere, they had let us put in that pump station and a little pump house and line all the way to the river. It gets to the river one way or the other, whether it loads on the ground and then runs off and gets through streams and creeks and gets to the river, but it's just not the mass polluted spot, a pipe going out to it.
And this wasn't triggered by anything other than just the cycle of time to do the inspection?
Well, they know about it. I mean,
right.
They write the permits for it. It's been in the permit forever, but I think it's just always a crackdown. The EPA is always looking to lower the limits of everything.
They get that chance when we have to renew our permit, so.
They hold that over your head.
Yeah, it's kind of the time where you hear the rules have changed, or this is now the situation, and so.
It's too bad if that's a prerequisite for a new permit, that they're not willing to pay for that.
That's kind of been the life, the way things roll.
It's the whole same reason with the wastewater plant going from lagoons
That's
to
true. That
the
would have
mechanical
been
plant.
nice. We were mandated to replace our treatment plant.
Right.
And
To lowered ammonia limits, and we couldn't meet it with a lagoon, so $14 million later.
it was more than just a rule.
Oh yeah. Any other questions?
Okay. Resolution consideration of the best practices professional judgment study with Lamprey Nearson.
I move we approve resolution number 1359 for the consideration of BPJ study for lime disposal.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes. Okay. Agenda item number 5 is an ordinance amending the schedule of fees, Title I, Appendix A of the Municipal Code related to water tap fees.
With the rising cost of parts and materials that we are all experiencing, we have assessed our water tap fees and see the need to increase them from the current material and labor cost. The current or old tap fees were an all-inclusive fee, which included labor, benefits, and material, all wrapped into one fee. Since we are in such a volatile material time with rising material cost, we're planning on adopting a base cost plus the current material cost. On some of the quotes we're getting from material, they're holding it for 7 days even. So if you don't buy the part in 7 days or at least place an order, then the price goes up. So we'll keep track based on the orders of the tap and the meter pit cost for the material and adjust the total tap fee as needed. The table below identifies the example of the new base fees and material fees. As you can see, I won't read through all those, but we'll do the 5/8. For a 5/8 meter, our current fees are $1,000 for it. The new base fee will be $324 labor. The material charged in for a 5/8 is $722, which would bring the total new tap fee to $1,046. Once we place an order and get that, say if we order 50 of them, we'll just keep that, and as long as when we use up all those 50 and we get the next order in, it'll be the $324 amount, so it's going in the resolution and be in the ordinance, and then we'll adjust the material cost as the price fluctuates up or down. Any questions?
Okay. An ordinance amending the schedule of fees, Title I, Appendix A of the Municipal Code related to water tap fees.
Make a motion, we take ordinance number 22-06-08, consideration of fee schedule update for water taps to second reading.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes. Okay, an ordinance amending the schedule of fees, Title I, Appendix A of the Municipal Code related to water tap fees.
I move that we approve ordinance number 22-06-08, consideration of fee schedule for water tap fees.
Second.
Roll call Shannon?
Councilwoman Morgan?
Yes.
Councilman Spawn?
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear?
Yes.
Mayor Powell?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 6, an ordinance dissolving the redevelopment area, the special allocation fund, and the tax increment allocation financing associated therewith, all under the Vintage Plaza 2 tax increment financing plan, and allocating and authorizing the transfer of monies in said special allocation fund.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. We have for your consideration this evening the closeout of the Vintage 2 TIF. The Vintage 2 TIF was approved by the council on May 16th of 2011, and as you will recall, the clock begins ticking when the council does their second reading on a TIF plan, and that clock states that you have 10 years in which you have to place a project on the TIF. And if a project isn't placed on the TIF after 10 years, you can't place a new project on there. May 16th of 2021, we hit our 10-year mark, and we don't have any open projects within that TIF plan, so we are requesting an early closure. And we have a certificate of completion from the applicant that originally applied for the TIF, and so we bring that to you this evening and request that we close that TIF.
Are there any questions? An ordinance dissolving the redevelopment area, the special allocation fund, and the tax increment allocation financing associated therewith, all under the Vintage Plaza 2 tax increment financing plan, and allocating and authorizing the transfer of monies in said special allocation fund.
I move we take ordinance number 22-06-09, the closeout of Vintage 2 TIF, to second reading.
Second.
Roll call Shannon?
Councilman Spawn?
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear?
Yes.
Mayor Powell?
Yes. Okay, an ordinance dissolving the redevelopment area, the special allocation fund, and the tax increment financing allocation financing associated therewith, all under the Vintage Plaza 2 tax increment financing plan, and allocating and authorizing the transfer of monies in said special allocation fund.
Move that we approve ordinance number 22-06-09, consideration of closeout of Vintage 2 TIF.
Second.
Roll call Shannon?
Councilman Kowalski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan?
Yes.
Councilman Spawn?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear?
Yes.
Mayor Powell?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 7 is an ordinance approving amendments to the city's personnel manual regarding sexual abuse and molestation prevention.
While we've been shopping for insurance coverage, one of the proposers requested that the city have a sexual abuse molestation policy in place. And this policy would provide a procedure that requires our employees, volunteers, contractors, and board members to be mandatory reporters if they would witness sexual abuse in city workplaces. And this is separate from harassment. It's not meant to be the same thing. This policy is being included in our city personnel policy as an amendment. And as a consequence of that, our agreement with Local 42 is that we provide any amendments to this policy to them in advance for review. So that was done, and they did not respond by June 8th, which was the date we had asked for a response by. So I'm going to assume from that that they have no conflict with this policy. So please consider an amendment to the personnel policy to include the molestation policy.
Any questions for the board?
Does it require an affirmative from Local 42 that they agree, or just by them not responding, they're deemed to have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Our agreement is that we agreed to provide them any amendments or comments.
Okay.
So it's not a policy that pertains to them or any of their members, so they don't get to decide yes or no.
Any other questions? Okay, an ordinance approving amendments to the city's personnel manual regarding sexual abuse and molestation prevention.
I move we take ordinance number 22-06-10, consideration of amendment to section 6 of the personnel policy to second reading.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes. Okay, an ordinance approving amendments to the city personnel manual regarding sexual abuse and molestation prevention.
Make a motion, we adopt ordinance number 22-06-10, consideration of amendment to section 6 of personnel policy.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes. Okay, agenda item number 8 is a consideration of property liability and workers' compensation insurance. And this would be a resolution.
The city's property liability and workers' comp insurance coverage is currently with Midwest Public Risk. NPR has provided the city's insurance coverage for almost 20 years. They are a public entity insurance pool specifically designed to meet the needs of municipalities, and they have provided the city with an excellent service over the period of time we've received services from them. We did receive several inquiries over the last year to quote our business. We selected a broker to complete a risk management analysis of our coverages and identify areas we could improve either our coverage limits or our loss ratio. Following this analysis, we did request proposals and received 4 different proposals for our business. NPR submitted a proposal that lowered their current premiums, and we received, I would say, of the other 4, Travelers submitted the most competitive proposal. Not all things are apples to apples, so Travelers is unable to provide us a loss control cash awards, which is sort of an incentive that NPR does by giving us cash back for safe practices or purchase of items such as safety shoes, sort of workplace culture issue consulting services. But with the savings between premiums, we would be able to fund that ourselves should you choose to change insurance coverage. They provide complimentary legal services. NPR pays the first 3 hours of legal services, and this year that has been valued at $1,500 in consultant services at no cost. And again, we would be able to cover a cost of that size. Lexipol Public Safety, policy development and training assistance, which is utilized by both our police and fire departments. NPR provides a discount to the price of that annual subscription service, and that is valued at approximately $10,000 a year. And our difference in premiums would afford us the ability to pay for that. NPR pays for appraisal services, which is not an annual thing, but it is valued at about $9,000 every few years, and this enables us to keep our insurance levels current with current pricing. We could afford to cover that cost with the change in premiums. They also provide, Travelers provides a comparable service to NPR with complimentary legal services, workers' compensation nurse hotline, and training geared to municipal service industries. And upon review, Travelers provides something very similar as well. As a financial comparison, by selecting Travelers, our savings and premiums between the two proposals would be $204,000. That is a $302,000 savings compared to our current premiums. Let's see. We would currently elect to continue with our general employment practice as attorney at our cost and budget the cost of services we currently enjoy from NPR if you elect to change. And those are all those services that I've just mentioned would total about $50,000. There are many advantages for staying with NPR. I've had the opportunity over the last couple of days to try to talk to those cities that are currently using Travelers and receive similar complimentary comments. I've tried to summarize the comments from those phone calls in OneNote for you to see those comments for yourself in case those jogged any questions that you'd want as a follow-up. I think that's about everything. I think you have two good proposals before you. Obviously, a big price variance exists.
Do you have any questions for Molly?
Yeah, Molly, I was zooming in from Branson, so it was a little sketchy at times, but if I remember correctly, our broker did recommend, when it came down to the line, he recommended that we go with Travelers.
He did, yes. He was asked specifically to provide that for us as our broker, and he did do that.
On the loss control cash awards, is that something that we would be willing to set up that fund
Yeah.
before that gets lost in the noise
Absolutely.
of the savings? I think that would be an important item for.
I mean, obviously, we buy shoes on an annual basis, and I remember when we started that program, it was foot injuries was the #1 thing from dropping things on your foot.
Mm-hmm.
And these are steel-toed boots that have been pretty important. I don't know that we've had other similar injuries since we began the boot program. And I think everyone enjoys the gift part of the awards that come back, but if it's in your budget, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Any other questions? Sonia, do you have any questions?
I do not, thank you, Sharon.
And I think Bill is online too.
Bill is online with us too,
If you
yeah.
had any questions for him.
I'm here.
Do you have any comments, Bill? No?
Oh, I would just echo what Molly said, that they're both very good programs, and what Travelers wins in cost, NPR has in tenure and excellent service with the city over a couple of decades. So there isn't a bad choice. We have explored if things didn't work out, can we go back to NPR at the end of this policy period, and that is yes. So and we are exploring getting them to lock in their rates for more than 1 year, which would alleviate any fears of them, quote, buying the business for 1 year and then raising the rates dramatically in the second, which we don't expect them to do. That's not Travelers' way. It's more of an AIG, Zurich kind of thing. But it could happen, and if we were able to get that, it would just make it even better. They put a very good proposal on the table, and the reason that it's good is because the city's claims have been good, and NPR wasn't in a position to give enough reduction because it's a pool, and if they give y'all $100,000, they have to take it from someone else.
The question that Bill was following up on came from the phone call that I made. One of the communities has a 3-year lock. It's not exactly a lock. What it is that their Travelers has agreed not to raise their premiums more than a certain percentage. And so I
And I know there was a conversation around the refunds that we've accumulated since 05, 06, but that's kind of like a mysterious number that we're not sure even what that is.
Right.
So if we change from NPR to Travelers, we lose that, but we don't really have an idea of what it is we're even losing.
Right. You lose it, and whether you would ever see it is up to many things in the future that are all the factors that they use to consider. And I think we all understand that it's not an answer they can give today. It's based on a lot of things, so.
And the last comment I'll make is, I know you had mentioned this, I found this very pertinent to the information here, is that NPR is a pool.
Yes, they're a risk
Traveler,
pool.
yes, it's a risk pool, so if there was some type of a major event in this region,
Yeah.
it's a get in line and hope you get paid
Yeah,
versus
and
an actual insurance.
that's not something I necessarily thought of, because I just was thinking of how insurance works. And in one of the calls, the clarification was that NPR is a risk pool. So if there is a disaster that's hit several of our members, it's a question of who gets paid first. And in insurance, everyone gets paid. So I thought that was an important distinction. I'm not sure we'll see that event, let's hope, but that's kind of what we're dealing with, is the ifs.
After 2020, who knows
Yeah.
what.
Well, and
That's
the
right.
volatile weather we're having and all of that.
Right. So. And all of our pool members are sort of clustered.
Right.
We're a focus of the Kansas City market, which doesn't, they write beyond our market, but that's sort of our cluster, so.
Any other questions? Anything else? Okay, so I will entertain a resolution and name the company that you would like to see us consider when you make your motion for the resolution. And it's a consideration of property, liability, and workers' compensation insurance.
I move that we approve resolution number 1360 by going with the proposal as submitted by Travelers for the consideration of property, liability, and workers' compensation insurance.
Second.
You have a second?
Sonia seconded, okay. Roll call, Shannon?
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes. Okay. We'll be going with Travelers. Agenda item number 9 is appropriations, an ordinance allowing claims and appropriating to pay the same by issuing checks out of the various funds of the city.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Appropriations for your approvals for a 2-week period from June the 6th through June the 15th. June the 1st through June 15th. June 1st appropriations, $325,454.77, and appropriations on June the 8th of $169,118.43, and payroll on June the 15th of $332,786.39. For appropriations for your approval, $827,359.59.
Questions for Vonda? All right, an ordinance allowing claims and appropriating to pay the same by issuing checks out of various funds of the city.
I make a motion that we take ordinance number 22-06-11, consideration of appropriations, to second reading.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes. An ordinance allowing claims and appropriating to pay the same by issuing checks out of the various funds of the city.
I move that we approve ordinance number 22-06-11, consideration of appropriations.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, remarks by city manager?
I've included a couple of things in your OneNote. One is pertaining to the Fishing River watershed. We're getting ready to start walking or assessing in the field the condition of the stream. So you may get comments or random calls from property owners or people that are curious about something they've seen or some of the activity. So I just thought it'd be helpful if you had, and I included a map of the watershed, what the letter said that went to the property owner about the field work. So, and I'll continue to add things that seem to be important or things that property owners or residents might ask you, so you kind of have that information. And the second thing I put on there was about the Missouri Photo Workshop, and these are kind of things that are just, they change over through the week. So with the Missouri Photo Workshop, both the Chamber of Commerce and DEP have met over the last couple of weeks, and their boards have agreed to sponsor with the city this event. So I wanted you to see the process for donating to help us put this on to bring MU to Excelsior Springs is by going to the Community Foundation, which is esgives.org, and making your donation, and then the sponsors are listed on that website. So I think that hopefully will change over time, and you'll see who's continuing to sponsor. I did talk to Four Horses and a Dog. They agreed to sponsor the opening event. So that would be the time where people from the community will meet the photojournalists and talk about stories that they could spend their week telling. And since there could be as many as 100 people from their group, trying to figure out how to invite members of the community to this, and it would just seem that what I was thinking is the groups that are sponsoring this should maybe be the groups that are invited to the opening event, or potentially name who they want to represent their group at this event. So there will be, that's the idea, that I just didn't know how big to make this event. So that seemed to be the way to kind of figure out how to get people there. I originally was thinking those people that seem to be the best stories should be invited so they meet them. Well, honestly, they don't have, the story doesn't have to arrive at the event. We just have to inform them of what these stories are. So that sort of made this a little bit more manageable and hopefully attractive for someone being our sponsor.
Well, and
So-
those groups are pretty large groups, and
They are.
they take in
Yeah.
a good portion of the people who are acting in our community.
Yeah, so I thought that maybe that was a good way to go, and anyway, we'll see. I will continue to try and inform people about this, and so we can get the contributions to cover any cost. And also included in that is the details about the book publishing that was provided to me. So you'll see that, and maybe as things change, we'll
Well,
add to.
also, if random people donate, they should be invited.
Absolutely. I think anyone that's a sponsor should be invited to
Right.
attend, or send someone on their behalf to attend. So anyway, that's kind of what kind of developed over the last couple of days. So we have some movement forward on the Hall of Waters, and some of the things are to notify National Trust that we're starting. The emergency shoring is a part of the contract that's already involved in the work we've awarded. There's no destruction involved, no intended destruction involved. And so there shouldn't be any concern from an environmental standpoint. So we will move forward with making those contacts to National Trust and to our contractor issue the permits, update St. Louis Antiquities that is gonna be refurbishing the water bar lighting. So, that's kind of moving forward. Glad to see that we have a path to move forward. And then lastly, I had sent something to you today about Smart Growth America, see if there was any interest. It requires a elected official only to attend, so it really depends on if any of you are interested in participating. And it provides technical assistance about creating or addressing dangerous streets. Is the purpose.
I thought it looked like it was on ethnicity.
There were 3 stories, so the first one was on dangerous streets, so the last one was on something close to that. So, yeah. That's it for me.
That's it for you, Stephen?
Waterfest this week, there's a lot going on.
There's a lot.
This week, and has been a lot, which is a good thing at the wine festival a couple weeks ago. So,
Right.
Waterfest this week should be a fun event.
Nothing at this time.
Andrew?
Good night, thanks.
Sonia?
No, thank you, Sharon.
Okay, well, I had the opportunity to attend the culmination of the Parade of Hearts Friday night, and they auctioned off 12 of the hearts that they had held back out of the online bidding, and it was really interesting. I wasn't even seated down there on the floor with everybody that was bidding. I was on the loser floor. No, the Lowe's Hotel floor, and it looked like loser. So, but anyway, it was very interesting. It was fun, and they announced that they are going to do hearts again, and they're going to start phase 2. So I imagine it like this one, it'll take a couple years to get it planned, but they're going to try to do it again. So we'll have to keep our eyes out. Hopefully, we'll get a heart next time also. That was very good. So.
Got to enjoy the cows.
Yeah.
Remember the cow thing?
Oh, yeah.
So if nobody has anything else, we are adjourned.
No close.